Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning.
It's the vibe, it's the vibe, it's the vibe. It's the mood. Hey.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning and welcome to Pink Robe Chronicles. I am the Reverend Dr. Melva L. Sampson, your virtual pastor, your digital griot. Good morning. In this space, we are truth tellers, we are wisdom seekers. Good morning. From a decidedly womanist, Afro-centered, Afrofuturist lens, we believe, trust the folk, and specifically Black women. Good morning, welcome. Good morning, good morning, good morning, welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good morning, good morning to each of you. Welcome. Excuse me, good morning. I invite you to click like and to share as we continue our conversation this morning around the now New York Times best-selling text, Rest is Resistance. Shout out to Trisha Hersey Patrick. Shout out to the Nap Ministry. Tag the Nap Ministry. Go ahead and tag the Nap Ministry. Village Keepers, tag the Nap Ministry and just congratulate them. Congratulate her on this amazing, amazing honor, amazing work. She is number 4 on the New York Times best-selling list, and boy, are we glad about it. We are so appreciative. One of our very own community members is now a New York Times best-selling author, and we celebrate that. I'm telling you, for one friend of mine, a colleague who said, my little Facebook thingy, this little Facebook thingy is really, really has had, in the words of Digi Deacon Natasha Robinson, our little Facebook thingy also has conversations with best-selling authors. And through these virtual streets and in this virtual space, we have had the opportunity to be in conversation with some phenomenal texts along with the authors of those texts. We have been fortunate to sit with Candace Bimbo and Red Lip Theology. We have been fortunate to have conversation with co-authors This Here Flesh and have her in the chat. We have been fortunate to be in conversation with Dr. Monica Coleman's Making a Way Out of No Way, a Womanist Theology, with Dr. Shaniqua Walker Barnes' Is Too Heavy a Yoke, Black Women and the Burden of Strength, with Dr. Velma, I'm going to call the role, with Dr. Velma Love's Divining the Self, with Bell Hooks Talking Back. I am sure there are more that are escaping me, but we have been here where we center the text of Black women, and I am so appreciative that on last week, Trisha Hersey Patrick granted us the opportunity to be on live with us. We are a fortunate community, and so let's please shout her out. I want to give you a heads up as we are going to continue diving into part 2 of this text. I want to give you a heads up that on Sunday, November 13th, I don't have the graphic yet, and I'll tell you why. It's a lot going on. But on November 13th, while we do center the words, the text, the lived experiences of Black women, as a womanist, we are committed to the survival of the entire community. And that community stretches across intersections. And so on Friday, I had a beautiful, beautiful spirit inspired conversation with Ramal Toon. For those of you who don't know Ramal Toon, I will be sharing more about him. But as they say in this day and age, Google him. Ramal Toon just wrote a book called I Wish My Dad, The Power of Vulnerable Conversations. The power, excuse me, I Wish My Dad, The Power of Vulnerable Conversations. And in this text, it is, I'll just read the jacket part. From author, speaker, and social entrepreneur Ramal Toon and his son Jordan comes this tour de force for fathers and sons about healing the unfinished business between them. What do sons wish they had received from their fathers? What might honest healing conversations between fathers and sons look like? Toon was raised mostly without a father. He and his dad connected briefly when he was a teenager and then had no relationship for decades. After years of inner work via therapy and faith, Toon realized that neither he nor his dad possessed what they needed to live up to each other's expectations. So he began to wonder if other men also longed to have vulnerable conversations with their fathers about good memories, about pain, and about what their relationship could still be. So he sat down with 17 men of diverse ages, ethnicities, and socioeconomic backgrounds for I Wish My Dad conversations. In the pages of this book, he invites us into the room as the men unpack relationships with their fathers, learn to work through emotional pain, recount moments of tenderness and care, and describe risks they took to heal and connect with their fathers. Some might say, well, what are we, huh? Like, why are we? Because being committed to the survival of an entire community means that we are also committed to the survival of men identified folk. And when we have an opportunity to peer into conversations around what men identified folk wish their fathers, then we are also able to get a glimpse into our own healing, Ashe. We are also able to get a glimpse into behaviors for those of us who are partnered, for those of us with men identified folk, for those of us who you know, are fathers, our sons. I think that this is a healthy engagement, and I just want to just be open and honest to tell you that even in the conversation that Ramah and I had, I made a confession, and I can, you know, as I'd share with you all most things, but my confession, well, no, I'm actually not going to share Ashe. But just know, and Spirit just said that quick, not yet. Just know that there were some profound inklings that came up, especially what it means. He says that in some of the stories, there are stories about sons who are, you know, talking about what it has felt like to be one person opens their reflection with I was my father's first mistake, talking about how he was born outside of his father's relationship with his father's wife, which was not his mother. Conversations like that are so very powerful for the entire community. And so on November 13th, Ramal will be with us. Shay, he will be with us, and we will engage in conversation. So it's important for you to get the book. And I asked if he had a preferred way to get the book, and he said Amazon. It's important for you to get the book so that we can have a conversation. Ashe. I'm dealing with allergies and they are wearing me out. I solicit your prayers. Good morning to everyone who has joined, Renee, Monica, Mel, Chris, Margaret. Um, good morning, good morning, good morning. Glittery Smurf on YouTube. Good morning, Veranda. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Kanita and Carmen and Winter and Margaretta and Brandeis, Glincy, Akila, Marilyn, Dr. Sonia, Jessica. Good morning, good morning, good morning to all of your Akosawa. You made it, sis. Good morning to Donna, to Nashika, to Antoinette, to Rosalind, to Tanya, to Barbara and Jennifer, Devon and Sherry, Yolanda, Franita, Rhonda. Good morning. Good to see you. And to all of those names that are just appearing as Facebook user, and I'm unable to see your names. Good morning. Before we move into the second part of this particular chronicle, I also solicit your prayers. That's right. Go ahead and tag folks that you know who would usually be here, but you don't see them. Tag them and let folk know there'll be a graphic coming out this week. I want to make sure, Mel, Chris, that you invite the brothers, the men folk, to this conversation on November 13th. I received some very, very, very hard news on last evening. My friend group of 40 years, most of you know that in April, my particular friend group, lost one of our brightest angels, the absolute angel of our group. She transitioned after fighting a hard battle with breast cancer. And I say her name, Carol Baker Ford, as this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I speak her name and I call forth her memory and always. And on last night, I got word that another member of our friend group has made her transition. And now, if you're on here and you know whom I'm speaking, I'm asking you not to type that name, not to say RIP blank, to give the family the opportunity to share that news with all for whom it needs to be shared. But my goodness, today it's a hard morning, and I wanted to be here with this community because this is the community that gives me strength. This is the community where I don't have to hold up airs, where I can be exactly where I am in the midst of my grief, and so I invite your prayers for my friend group. We have called ourselves GGP since the 80s, since the late 80s. We have been the Glamour Girl Posse. I invite your prayers for the GGP. And yeah, this is going to be a tough one. And I believe that rest, this is a necessary conversation. Rest will help me to grieve because I am just really numb. I absolutely know that I'm in shock. I absolutely know that I'm in shock, and I just almost the wind has been knocked out, along with other things that have been happening in the last week or two. And so rest is all of our portion. And so I invite your prayers. Again, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Leah Jordan and Leah Burgess. Good morning. Good morning, Valerie Rawls and Veronica Cow and Erica Batson. Congratulations, Margaret Connolly, for the Healthy and Whole Summit, virtual summit. Congratulations on that successful convening. For those of you that are just joining, on last week, we began our conversation with Trisha Hersey Patrick's Rest is Resistance, and she was actually here with us. Ashe, we are a fortunate community. You can find the replays of all of our Pink Robe Chronicles, of all of the chronicles, all of the reflections on YouTube, on our Pink Robe Chronicles page. If you have not already liked and subscribed to YouTube, our YouTube page, I invite you to go like and subscribe to our YouTube page. right now or as soon as you finish this. And if you are new here, you can go and look at all of our archives and look at all of the reflections and take your time. You can binge watch and share them with friends. I also invite you to go to my website, www.drmelvasampson.com. And when the little icon comes up for you, the little box comes up for you to share your email to make sure that you are on our mailing list as we are within the next few weeks moving to our subscription community. And I want you to be aware. We're going to start with part 2 of Rest is Resistance. If this has been a blessing to you, if this has been just profound to you, just go ahead and give me some kind of emoji, some kind of hearts, if they still have hearts on Facebook now. So just let me know that this has been a blessing. I also, at the appropriate time and point, invite folks over to the clearing. Those who know what the clearing is will make their way over to the clearing. And if you don't know what the clearing is, when I say we're moving to the clearing, I invite you to click on the link and come that you might find out. Ashe. Part 2 of this text and how we do hear it is my sister, Dr. Akosa Willis saying, who reminded me of just how important this work is around literacy, and how she talks about it's one thing to, we have there is data to back up the power of reading to children and the ways that informs and empowers them and enhances their comprehension. She said, but here we are in Pink Road Chronicles, engaging in adult literacy, actually reading out loud, sort of that transference of knowledge in that way. And so I am on part 2, which is about dreaming. This makes me think of my dear colleague in the work and friend, Dr. Irie Session. This part 2 is called Dream. And I'm just reading the epigraphs in this part. To my ancestors, your labor and the theft of your body will not be in vain. I will rest for you. I will recapture the dream space you lost, and we will be resurrected together there in dream space. Inspired by Daydreaming, Octavia Butler, Audre Lorde, and Womanist Theology. It would be smart for us to not turn our backs on rest and care, for we cannot afford to be exhausted and disconnected. We do the work for them when we are afraid of our own power. Ashe, 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 ashe. As my eyes closed, I began to imagine my braids rising to become propellers that would allow me to levitate and fly away to another planet. This planet has never experienced racism, sexism, classism, or any type of hate. People sleep up to 18 hours a day like like cats. During the sleep time, their dreams produce all the labor they need to survive and thrive. The food is grown via dreams. The planet is a sanctuary for Black bodies that have been destroyed on Earth via violence and oppression. Those people are now on the council that serve as the spiritual advisors to the entire planet. Trayvon Martin is there. Rekia Boyd is there. Sandra Bland is there. George Floyd is there. Breonna Taylor is there. They are all together, wearing white, smiling, and resting. This vision came to me in a 30-minute daydreaming session. It soothed me and allowed me, excuse me, y'all. Ooh, these allergies, I'm sorry. I'll probably be coughing through this reflection. I apologize in advance. This vision came to me in a 30-minute daydreaming session. It soothed me and allowed me a quiet space to grieve and rest. It allowed me to feel in my body and mind an alternative to what has been done. I call my daydreaming brain love. This ministry uplifts daydreaming as one of the many forms of rest, a form of rest that can be accessed at any time, a mini nap. As a child, many of us were punished for daydreaming while in classrooms. The teachers trained under grind culture assumed daydreaming was a student not paying attention. And so we slowly learn our time to imagine and download new information is wrong and not a part of learning. We begin the lifelong process of disconnecting from our bodies and learn to ignore the subtle and bold ways that our bodies and spirits are communicating with us constantly. I can daydream for hours a day and vividly remember this as a daily practice since I was a child. In those daydreaming moments, I was processing my own history and imagining worlds that felt real. I was creating history as I paused and let my mind and body connect. I have always been living in between time as an artist and a creative. I remember being 7 years old and sitting on the cement porch of my two-bedroom childhood home in Harvey, Illinois. I will never forget this porch, smooth cement with four steps that expanded into a stage area big enough for a chair surrounded by an intricate iron design. I would spend entire summer sitting on the stairs and staring at the sky, singing to myself, creating stories, bird watching, and holding space for my mind to wonder. What does it mean for us to hold space? My. To hold space for our minds to wonder. When is the last time, my goodness, when is the last time that you held space for your mind to wonder? As I got older, she writes, those moments happened less and less. I was rushed off by my parents, teachers, classmates, colleagues, managers, and friends. All of culture is in collaboration for us not to rest. All of culture, she writes, is in collaboration for us not to rest. There is no system in our culture that supports and makes space for us to rest. I need us to hear this, to download this into our consciousness. This culture does not want you rested unless your rest is attached to your increased labor and productivity. My. Ha ha. Ah. Yeah, uh-huh. This culture does not want you to rest. The systems that we are attached to does not want us to rest unless what? Our rest is attached to our to increase labor and productivity. Meaning unless the reason why we need rest will allow us to be revived so that we can be more productive for a system, so that our labor can be increased for a system to gain, for a system to commodify us, right? So that even rest becomes commodified because the system is not allowing you to rest because the system is really concerned for you. The system is allowing you to rest so that you can continue to produce, so that you can increase your labor and be productive. Ashe, we already know that productivity is an issue. Productivity is a problem. The need to produce, not create, but the need to produce is an issue for many of us that function within systems, within institutions, wherein our viability is attached to our ability to produce. Come on, somebody. And that it is hard that production really, for those of us who do certain types of work, our production is not a rote memorization of some type of task or skill, but our production is tied to our creativity. Our creativity is connected to our spirit. Our spirit comes, the spirit comes to speak to us when we have moments of rest. And what Trisha is saying to us is that daydreaming, allowing our mind to wander, is a vehicle of rest. It is a type of resistance against a grind culture that is not concerned with whether or not your body has the ability to pause, that suggests that you're wandering off, that your ability to sort of wander off is you wasting time. My, yes, Mel. Yet profits from us being sleep, i.e., the walking dead. No one will give you rest, Trisha says. This is an outlier investigation, a counter narrative. It is trust work. It is healing work. It is decolonizing. It is a subculture holding space for the blossoming of resistance. Daydreaming, then, rest or daydreaming as the vehicle to rest, is decolonizing work. So, with all of us who are often talking about decolonizing stuff, what Trisha is inviting us to do is to decolonize our understanding of rest and to detach it from labor and productivity. Daydreaming, then, for Trisha, for Hersey, is a metaphysical space. Come on, metaphysicists. It is the space of manifestation. Daydreaming is a metaphysical space, a key component of this rest movement. This is the preparation, the request, the alternative, the counter narrative, the free fall. An alternative community of those curious about rest must be uplifted and seen as a possibility. In Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, the young main character serves as inspiration for our dreaming. I'm learning to fly, to levitate myself. No one is teaching me. I'm just learning on my own, little by little, dream lesson by dream lesson, end quote. This idea of a dream lesson resonates so eloquently as motivation for beginning the unraveling and healing process. The truth that we may find, the truth that we may be afraid, let's call it, that we may be afraid or unsure of how and when we will rest is valid. It's to your point, Darla. We can move through our guilt, our shame, and fear that will emerge from reclaiming our body's time as our own. This is a vulnerable truth that we should not run from or hide. It can be overwhelming to go against the dominant culture's desires and plans. I gotta sip. For instance, the notion of sabbatical comes from Sabbath, comes from rest. Whether you are a pastor or academic or in any field where you are taking a sabbatical, taking time to rest, to reflect, many folks, the sabbatical, as at least I can speak to the academy, the sabbatical is directly tied to increased labor and productivity, with the understanding that in the end, you will come back with some type of product. So that the sabbatical is not about rest, the sabbatical is about time, right? Time that you now, because you don't have to do your everyday duties, that you should now be giving this time to produce something to further the system, to further yourself along in the system, right? And to further the academe project overall. The problem is that what folks who have been on sabbatical, enough folks don't share. This is what I want to say. Enough folks don't share that for the first part, if you have a year-long or semester-long sabbatical, let's say you have a year-long sabbatical, that really for that first semester, if we are going to tell the truth about it, that first semester is overwhelming because we have set a schedule. Listen to this is what we do. We're going to set a schedule. We're going to set a writing schedule, not a rest schedule, but a writing schedule. And it's like soon as day one, soon as sabbatical starts, okay, I'm going to be at my desk at 9 a.m. I'm going to write for 4 hours, and then I'm going to read, and then this is what I'm going to do. And then by the end of these 4 months, I'm going to have the proposal, and then I'm going to da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The issue is that your body body is knocking on, the inner temple and saying, hey, friend, we need to rest. We've not had an opportunity to slow down and to even hear or think what we might be being called to create, because we are so busy on the timeline of increased labor. I know I'm talking to somebody. I know I'm talking to me. And so what happens is that when you come off sabbatical, when and if you do not have a product in hand, then you jeopardize, ask me how I know, Jesus, then you jeopardize your validity, your not according to you, but according to those external witnesses, you jeopardize the validity of you being able to be viewed as someone who contributes to a discipline and is tenurable. My God, today. Yeah. So that when your body, and here's the guilt that she's talking about, so that when your body is trying to rest, just think about it. I'm going to use myself as an example. So I started the PhD program in 2009. This is not a brag. This is a testimony. This is not a brag. You should not, after hearing this, you should not say, oh, if Melva did it, I know I could do. This is not what you should say. I started the PhD program in 2009, in August 2009. Our youngest daughter was born in July of 2009. I and prayed that she would come early because she was actually due in August. And my prayer was that if she came in August, that I wouldn't have enough clear time to be able to start. And I had already put the PhD on hold when we had our oldest daughter. And so here I was praying, calling into being that our child would come early. And certainly she did. She came 2 weeks early. I went at exactly 6 weeks, the first day of class started. I said this on last week, the first day of class started. I went to class, breast engorged, trying to breastfeed and trying to store milk, running from the top of the campus to the bottom of the campus, put our youngest in daycare at the tender age of 6 weeks because I felt like this was the only time that I could do this, that if I didn't do it then, that it would not happen. I now know that that's not true, but this is what was in my mind because folks were suggesting the urgency was connected to my age. Ah, my goodness. That the urgency that I needed to go ahead and do this because I was not getting any younger. And so I did, and I went through. It took me 7 years to complete the program. It took me 7 years and an attempt, two comp exam attempts. Well, not attempts because of course, then I passed, but 2 languages, French and German, 2 years of coursework. And then I finished. And then close to finishing, then I was consumed with getting a job, finding a tenure track job, getting on this job market. I believe that I was probably a finalist, meaning where you get invited to campus for about in a span of 2 years for maybe eight positions. That means then that I am preparing for those of you who do this work. That means that I at each time, and they were kind of back to back, during the job cycle of 2 years in a row. So that means I'm preparing job talks that are tailored to the position, that are tailored to the institution. I am familiarizing. I'm going somewhere. Just stay with me. I am familiarizing myself with people who are on the faculty. I'm familiarizing myself with the work of people so that I can be able to engage. I'm studying the history of institutions. I am studying the history of decisions made at institutions, only to then finally, land in a space that I believed was right and open, right for me. only then to start the cycle for me, which felt like doing another PhD program all over again. Starting the tenure track for me was just like starting the PhD program all over again. That there are levels that once you now land the job, there are now levels that you have to go through your initial contract, a fourth year review. And then based on if your fourth year review is successful, then it will be determined whether or not you are tenurable and go up for tenure the following year. Then when you go up for tenure the following year, then there is your dossier, your portfolio that folks on the outside have to review to determine, listen to me, I'm going somewhere, to determine whether or not you are worthy. Now, in all of those things, I just gave you a timeline for me since 2009 up until 20 and 22. In all of those spaces, ask me, when did I rest? Well, sabbatical came. I had the opportunity. I won what am I trying to say? A grant, excuse me, a grant to take a year-long sabbatical. It wasn't to rest though, it was to produce. It was to produce my first year, my first manuscript. And folk were excited about it. And it is a worthy book. It is a worthy book. It is absolutely worthy. But then when I got into, I'm just testifying right here, I'm just trying to help somebody. When I got into writing, y'all, which something that I love because I'm writing about what I do. It is something that I know. I started to experience, and many of you have heard this story, I started to experience block. Like I couldn't get to, I knew what I wanted to say. I just couldn't make it come out when I was typing. If I only could talk about it. So people said, record yourself talking about it and then just send it to the transcriber, to the transcription services, and let it be transcribed. And then there it is. Oops, that's easy. There you go. But I did that. I did that. I did that. And when it came back, there was something that was still missing. And then what happened was the exhaustion set in. And so even when I wanted to sit at the computer, I was so exhausted that at times that I did sit at the computer, I would just be sitting at the computer, but nothing would be coming out. Why? Because I wasn't resting. I wasn't sleeping through the night. Why? Because the fear, my God, today, hey, Jesus, woo, Lord Jesus, because the fear, because the fear of not producing, the fear of what not producing would do, the fear of what not producing would do to me, to my family. If I don't produce, then I won't be seen as valuable. If I'm not seen as valuable, then my contract won't be renewed. If my contract is not renewed, then how will we survive, only on, one salary, just my spouse? If I can't survive, then Houston, we have a problem. And I just want to testify to someone right now who is in that space. I'm not telling you not to do your work, but what I am saying is that I wish, Dr. Monica, that more people would be honest about what a sabbatical really is. Yes, to your point, that it's really about a research leave. It is not about your rest. And so here I am being sort of immobilized, if you will, my body actually pausing on its own. There were several times, and you all know, that I had to take a pause, even up until 2022, of actually being in the hospital for a week. My body all along trying to tell me, trying to say, hey friend, and wanting to invite me into a dream space where my ancestors can speak to me, can share with me, can tell me in the first place why they've even guided me to this work. And so I started to take my rest seriously. Then COVID hit. And then some of you all were so productive in COVID. My God. Y'all was so productive. I'm just, wow. And this is not a jab. I'm saying it was very impressive. You started businesses. And I imagine, though, because for some of you all, you actually had the opportunity to rest. Jesus. That in your rest, you got clear on your creativity. But I wasn't resting during COVID. I wasn't resting. I was trying to figure out how we are going to homeschool our two girls. I, along with my spouse, we were the IT technicians. We were the sous chefs and the cafeteria workers. We were the math teacher and the English teacher. We were the mental health counselors, all while trying to maintain our own schedule of work. No one in the system said, hey, some systems said we're going to give you an extra year. But even with that extra year, there was no conversation about, hey, what does it look like for us to reevaluate our system? Well, we can't really reevaluate the system because the system in and of itself is also based on capitalism. And if you don't help us meet our bottom line, then basically you are not useful in this space. I'm just talking about rest. And I'm talking about, my God, y'all. I'm talking about what Trisha is inviting us to do, what it means to daydream, what it means. And now, so what ultimately happens for me. Yes, Monica, an extra year for grief alone, not to produce, but just to grieve. Because my writing is the creative arm of who I am. My writing is not some rote effort of memorization, some sort of abstract thing that I'm talking about. But as an autoethnographer, I am the data set. I am both the observed and the observer. But if I am unable to observe, then I'm unable to create. If I can't create, then there's no way that I'm producing. Then, to a particular kind of system, it might be suggested that my production, I am testifying, it might be suggested then that my production, come on, that my production is not valuable. So then it might be perceived. I'm using my testimony to help you. And then you just input what your thing is. So then it might be perceived that it's not wise to be in professional relationship with me because I am unable to produce. For particular bodies that have been commodified, for auction blocks that become classroom podiums, for transatlantic slave systems that are akin to tenure processes. It then would be suggested that I bring no value. And if I internalize that, then to Trisha's point, I would think that I would feel guilty about resting. I would then put productivity, Darla, before my rest because we always say it, if you don't eat, if you don't work, you don't eat. I would then forego, my God, I would forego. But somebody just said, here's just a little praise report on that. Some announcement just came out a few weeks ago. Some announcement just came out that the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, the world's largest museum and education research complex, the world's largest education and research complex, the world's largest museum and educational research complex, that extensioned four, not one, not two, not three, but four Pink Robe Chronicles, four for exhibition, for research, and for archives. And why is that so poignant? Because the only thing that I did do consistently in my rest was be on Pink Robe Chronicles. Come on, y'all. Make the connections. It was Dr. Cannon who said to me, remember I told this story before? It was Dr. Cannon who said to me when I was telling her I wanted to do a PhD program. She asked me what I wanted to do it in. I told her, she asked me what I was reading. And then she said, baby, what you reading does not coincide with what you say you want to do. So whatever it is you're reading, that is where your heart is. I was reading things about spiritual practices, very practical Black women spiritual practices. And so I have now stopped feeling guilty stopped feeling guilty about what I, in the eyes of a system and an institution, and in some possible colleagues, did not produce on their stage, on their terms. As a colleague said, of what my little Facebook thingy is. But my Facebook thingy, Ashe, is where my dream space is. My Facebook thingy, my God, is where our ancestors share with me and us. My Facebook thingy is where we talk with best-selling authors or with full professors. Come on, Dr. Monica Coleman. My Facebook thingy is the place where senior scholars and everyday folk who get to meet and engage and have conversation who never had an opportunity to walk on any college campus. My Facebook thingy, Jesus, is the work that my soul must have. And when the system finally catches up, Jesus, when the system finally catches up, when the system actually realizes that there are probably about 300 or more live streams that across my social platforms, that there are 11,000 village keepers, Ashe, that the views are in the thousands. When folk really turn their view from what we authenticate for what we believe in a system is valid, baby. And now, guess who's resting me? Because what it will make you feel like, this need to constantly produce, what it will make you feel like, friends. It will make you feel like that you've not done anything. But when you rest, in my rest, my ancestors have been sharing with me all of the things that they have placed on my heart to do, and yet all of the things that we will continue to create and do together, y'all. I just needed to take that time. I needed to speak to myself, but I also needed to speak to you. I need you to know that these, honey, whether you are a pastor at a church, you have to take your rest, because these systems, these human run systems, will run you right on into the ground. They will run you. I know that you on sabbatical, but can we just, yes, Wasaba, we attach our worthiness to our production, and absolutely enough is enough. My God. My God. Trisha says, but if, Fernita, we want to decolonize, what about decolonizing our dream space? That get the colonizers out your dreams. Ah, Jesus. Oh, my Lord. Get the colonizers out of your dreams. Somebody needed to hear that this morning. Yeah. Somebody needed to hear that on this morning. Get the colonizers out of your dreams. My God, today, Jesus. Since I started a little late, I'm going to go ahead a few more minutes longer. Thank you for hearing my testimony and for receiving it. I share that because I don't think enough of us share. Enough of us, many of us only share the success. We only share what happens at the top of the mountain, on the mountaintop. We don't share what happened on the rough side, my God. We don't share what happens in the valley. We only share once we get to the top and we have the testimony. We don't talk about the muck and the mire of the trial. And I just want you to know that your dream space is equally viable in the valley. Oh, my goodness. My goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Whoo, y'all, hold on. I'm super full. And I know that I'm carrying the emotions of my friend who transitioned on yesterday, but I am also just full at all what I just shared, that release, saying it out loud. And this is not, I also need to say this. This is not, I am proud of those who make it through these systems, who reach, at least in my field, who reach the title of full professor, who reach full senior pastor, and I am pickled pink proud. Like, absolutely. We made it. We made it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on, Tiana Taylor. I am proud. And I wish that many more would talk about the rest that was foregone in their journey to get there. I wish that they would come back and share with us, that we would not have to wait until they transition to hear their stories. Don't have to wait. I'm on page 95, y'all. I said all that because, yes, it can be overwhelming to go against the dominant culture's desires and plans. That was my example. We have been taught to hustle, to fake it till we make it, to ignore our body's cues for rest, all because our systems have been created to ignore and push the laborers and the workers as hard as possible to increase profit. The dream aspect of our rest work is deeply tied to the metaphysical and to the... Let me say this. Ooh, this is coming on me really strong. Stop putting things that your heart desires on the back burner because you are in particular processes. Yeah. Mm, mm, I just want to sit in that for a moment. Whew. I want to sit in that for a moment. Certain things you keep saying that you want to do, or that you want to get to, but you just need to finish this part first. You need to get this out of the way first. There will never be an out of the way moment. Yeah. Soon as I do this, then I'll be open and I'll be ready to receive. I want to say something because it's what I feel like saying. And I want to say in advance to anybody who might try to come for any one of my cards. Child, I'll gladly give them to you. Because what I'm not going to do in my rested self, what I'm not going to do is not say what I feel like saying. Ashe. Because what is clear is, honey, these processes cannot keep you warm in the midnight hour, baby. Listen, the rose is going to satisfy you. It's going to do what it needs to do now. Can I get a witness? It's going to do what it needs to do. But there will come a moment, friends, when you want, the rose can't converse with you afterwards. The rose can't cuddle up with you and tell you, baby, it's going to be, I'm here with you through. It can't do none of that. Neither can them books. Neither can these sermons. None of that can do that. Ashe, I just needed to say that. Ashe, I needed to say it. It needed to have been said. It needed to have been said, Carmen. It needed to be said. It needed to be said by the rose. Absolutely. Take the trip. But there will come moments, baby, when you wish that that rose grew legs and you wish that it had arms. But because we have only been given one model of how to move through processes, Hashay, I'm not going to be able to finish everything that I wanted to finish today. So let me just say this, finishing on page 96. And then I invite for those of you who want to talk a little bit more to come on over to the clearing for a few moments. The link has already been pasted into the, into, just one second, one second, one second. My. I see y'all already over there in the clearing. Y'all already waiting. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Let us get through. I love y'all. People say, honey, I am here. I'm already in here. I'm already waiting. Okay. Let me come on, make sure that our YouTube family gets what they need to come on over to the clearing. One second. What in the world? Hold on, y'all. We got one more little, okay. The dream aspect of our rest work is deeply tied to the metaphysical and spiritual. It is a time to be free from the confines of linear and grounded reality. The idea of being trapped in the box of the practical must be suspended during your deprogramming. Grind culture, here it is. Here it is, and we're going to talk about it in the clearing. Grind culture thrives on us remaining in our heads, unable to allow the technology of our divine bodies to soar and develop. There is massive knowledge and wisdom lying dormant in our exhausted and weary bodies and hearts. I believe the dreaming part of our unraveling will be the most challenging because it goes against all we have been socialized to maintain the pace and disconnection of grind culture. White supremacy thinking has taught us that there is only a binary, and the rigidity of this type of thinking keeps us available to the toxic systems, but unable to inhabit the divinity of our true selves. This is time to simply stop and feel, a time to not force or attempt to make sense of what can and will happen when we allow our bodies to heal from the massive load we have been carrying consciously and unconsciously. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Oh, thank you all for joining in on this reflection. I invite those of you all who desire to share with us, if this has been a blessing to you, to share and an offering to this work, to this ministry, to the work that we do, to our PayPal at Pink Robe Chronicles, to our Zelle, which is, I know that Natasha's probably already placed in there, which is the Zelle email is drmelvasampson@gmail.com, drmelvasampson@gmail.com. And our Venmo is Melva-Sampson, Melva-Sampson. Thank you so much for joining us, for being present with us, Village Keepers. Remember to keep the village, and we give thanks for your presence. We are heading over to the clearing, and we invite you. See you next week.